So, hi everyone, my name is Nuno the Carmo and I will be talking about Cloud Native on the desktop with a small twist, which is called Windows. I'll get about myself in a minute, so it's weird, Windows, SUSE, okay, let's see how it came to be. So the agenda, it's very short, long, but short at the same time. I just have 25 minutes, 1.5 hours, so if you have any questions, if I'm too long, please feel free to come after and I will answer all of them. So there's a plot, there's a few interludes, so read demos to thank someone here. And also we will play a small game and see how we go, okay? So, who am I? Who is this Corsair guy? So, during daytime, I'm Nuno do Carmo. I work for SUSE as a tech writer. I'm a Portuguese living in Switzerland since ever, so I'm Swiss but with a Portuguese name. I have several hobbies. I'm a proud owner of 4 cats. Read, my wife has 4 cats. And I have some recognitions just to say like why I'm here talking to you. However, during nighttime, like now, I'm the Corsair. So I'm just an hobbyist, passionate really about WSL since ever it came to be in 2016, and about Cloud Native and actually bringing the two together. My location is primarily on Twitter. I should update it to X right now, but yeah, so I'm Nunex Tech there. I'm blogging and most of the time I'm adding whatever distro you can find on about Linux on WSL2. I have a hat from Brian Kettleson, but that's a friend. And you will see I'm a heavy GIF user. So I do not apologize for that, but be warned. Oh, okay, I didn't remove that. So these, okay, I wanted to remove them, but these ones are the people I ate actually because they went to KubeCon without me. So sorry for that. The lady there is Annie from Vision, a company that you might have heard just a few seconds ago. Anyway, so let's do a first quick reality check here. Assumptions. Windows on the desktop around the world is the #1 OS, right? No really complaints here, no debates. However, on the other end, like you spoiled actually half of my presentation, so that's perfect. So the Cloud Native, mainly developers, you see them with Macs and Linux desktop, simply because everything is built for running on Linux first off, and Mac, well, there was the better user experience than a Linux desktop, except for SUSE, of course. That's for the IOPS. And then finally, whenever you go check Cloud Native documentations, you will see them towards Linux, right? So it's bash scripts and that's it, you have to run them. The copy paste, even the commands, we'll see them afterwards, you will see. But anything is around really Linux. But still, Windows is the #1 on the desktop. So here are the feelings from me, because I'm a Windows user at the end of the day, and maybe from the others that want to get started with Cloud Native. We really feel like a Linux gamer. Who is Linux gamer here? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so no one, just for the record. The thing is like, if you want to do a Linux gaming desktop, you will have a Steam or SteamOS, maybe, if you're lucky, but average, everything is for Windows, for whatever reason. Now, that is from the Windows, let's say, from the Windows perspective, the feelings that we have concerning the apps and everything that I said before about documentation and everything. The Cloud Native projects, when you go there, then you feel like a disconnect, a disinterest about Windows. You don't know why, if you're starting, right? If you are in the Cloud Native ecosystem or community, you will know maybe why it started there and everything. But when you start you are on Windows and everyone is talking about these cloud native things, applications, but nothing about Windows is still there. So you really feel like, do they even like have an interest on Windows? Quick answer is no, but we try to get it there. So here is the impact at the end of the day. There's a perception that is different from a user standpoint and cloud native developer or cloud native solutions also standpoint. From the cloud native projects, well, it seems that we lack some Windows support there, okay? But from the users, then they say like, okay, but your cloud native stuff is too hard. So we have the same issue, but from two different perspectives, point of views. Just a quick promise, I will not speak about a certain subsystem on Windows. Cycli, okay? I will have to talk about it for Rafael. Okay, first interlude. It has nothing to do, I just wanted to like space up my demos or my talk with some demos. So here, thanks for the not organizer, but like sponsor of the event, so Exoscale, thank you very much. It's not the first time we come here, so every time they are putting themselves forward for the community, I really appreciate that. So we have a tool here called DevPod, which will create an environment for you to develop for your applications, cloud native applications, directly on some remote systems, could be locally remote. I know it's weird, but we'll get there. But then we have remote, so on the cloud. And a friend of us from the cloud native community called Engin Diri created actually the Exoscale provider. So once you download DevPod, you will not have the Exoscale provider. So you just go here about add a new provider. You can see the default providers here, and then you will add one, and you will tell which one is it. So I will have everything from here, and then there's a link. So just a second. Let's get the link. So here is the link. We want this part here. Okay. It will tell, okay, right, which name do I want to do, whatever, I don't care. I save it, and what it will do is like, there's a manifest, it will download the manifest, and now from this, once you do that, okay, so it was faster. You will have to enter your Exoscale API key, your Exoscale secret for the API key, and then finally you will be able to just tell whatever you want, which zone do you want, and then you just save it and you can add the provider, okay? Of course, I did it before, so I added already the Exoscale here. And then, once you have this provider, what you can do is like you can create workspaces, okay? So let's create one. I have one created, but we don't really care. Let's go, which, Python, Go, or Rust? I don't dev at all, so Go, okay. Let's take Go. Here there's a small bug, so I will just add the git here. You can see that the Exoscale provider is selected, and is the CNC Meetup at Exoscale, and I will create. Okay, so it will start creating. Yeah, okay. So back here. Okay. We will get back again, so I will let it create and we will see how we can manage it. So, small game now. That was the first demo, by the way. So, let's re-roll as a Windows user. For the ones who like gaming here, I'm a huge World of Warcraft fan, unfortunately for me, and I love re-rolling. But let's try now to be a Windows user. So, there's few stages when you are a Windows user, again, for cloud native applications. You go on a website, you saw this demo, okay? You saw this demo about an application, incredible, like Cilium, let's say, and you want that, okay? Now, it's not Cilium, but let's say it's Cilium. So now you say, like, okay, is this, as these application Windows binaries, do they exist? Are there any release notes about Windows? Yes. Wow. Damn, I feel good. I have one cloud native application that I can use. Well, there's no installation docs, and Windows examples are, like I said, unexisting. So my Far West is more like an empty city right now. But let's say that we are lucky, okay? We do have this stage 1 successful, so I do have some docs, and the release notes tell me maybe how I can maybe install it on Windows. Well, I do have my Windows knowledge, so now I do have the binaries, and now I also have my PowerShell knowledge, my Windows knowledge. I feel like, yes, this one is for me. Well, not really. You start installing, it fails for whatever reason, cannot connect to your cluster, cannot connect to your server, okay? Plus, special mentioning, I never said Windows and Microsoft will make it easy for us, because there's a versioning chaos right now. And by right now, I mean like the past 30 years. Okay, you don't know which version you need at which level, especially when you're talking about Windows containers, that's even worse. They've solved it for the next generation of containers. You will be able to use it like Linux. Quick explanation. Linux containers, you don't care about your kernel, right? You run Alpine on Ubuntu, independent of if it's a kernel v5, kernel v6. You might care about some, let's say, dependencies or kernel modules that need to be enabled if you need to use a specific thing, especially for eBPF, for example. But then you don't really care. Windows is not like that. Windows, think Java, like Java 1.4, by the way, where you need the exact same number, distro number, as your host running your container. A mess. Believe me, I've been there, a mess, okay? So this is not helping. Like what? But still, sometimes it can work. So let's say now that finally, here is my user experience. If I'm lucky that stage 1, stage 2, so I have docs, I have the binaries, I have not so much chaos around me, then I can actually install it. Then what I'm expecting from the applications is to have some command output Windows friendly. What does it mean? Well, did you see the pass on Windows versus Linux, for example? So when you have nice error message telling that /usr/bin is not available, it's normal. Okay, it's not Windows. So the applications, that's where potentially you can help, because you know the errors that, well, I can have, so I might be able to help actually the community. How? Here is few tips. Now it's really cloud native. The first of all is the EOF. Let me now show my skills. Sorry, up here. So here we go. So who have seen this one? Quite a lot, right? Have you done some YAML in the past? So really look about the thing here is kubectl apply and then --eof, which ends here, as you can see. Okay? Then Okay, let's go back. Okay. So then I do have here and here. This is the PowerShell way. Looks like the same, it's not, right? So if you have someone that knows PowerShell, that's how they can help actually. That's by sharing this knowledge, like, okay, your cat EOF thingy about your YAML, you can help it like this one. This is the PowerShell way. And now you can contribute to documentation. And if the documentation, I'm a tech writer, right? So if documentation is well done and inclusive enough technically speaking, then you will be able to have more people also using your applications. Okay? Second, I will be faster. This one I don't need to zoom. But it will zoom, but anyway. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Anyway, so I will do it like this. So here is GQ. Who knows GQ? Okay, a lot of you. This is the normal, right? Did you know that instead of GQ, or a GQ was kind of created or built in with kubectl, with JSON pass, right? If you write these docs here, as a Windows user, I can literally copy paste the kubectl command. Remember, there's a split between kubectl, the user CLI, and the server where I'm targeting it, right? My target is definitely Linux somewhere, but my CLI might be Windows. So if my command is like that, for Windows is YQ, by the way, so you need to change something. But this one, as a tech writer, for me, I write it once, apply it everywhere. Again, Java dream, but I'm not a Java dev, by the way. Huh? Okay, so that was the 3 stages of the experience to get here, where we need, not where we add to, but where we still need to go through. Is there a build for Windows? Yes, no. Is there docs for Windows? Yes, no. Can I use my knowledge? Yes, no. And finally, is the output friendly enough? Okay, second interludes. Oh, failed. Okay, no worries. That's why I created another one. That's okay. We don't really care. So here, let me start it with VS Code browser. Oh, it will need to recreate it, hopefully not. So, while it creates, here is another thing. So, Exascale again, they did create a CLI called EXO, okay? So, if I type it here, you can see this is PowerShell 7, is like ZSH, where you can see whatever I typed before. So I'm not lying to you. I did it before, right? But here I uninstalled it, and right now it doesn't recognize it. So they use the package system called Snoop, but Snoop is not, which is great, by the way. Huh? This means DevPod started correctly. I'll get it there in a second. So Snoop is great, but is not by default. Now, since maybe a couple years now, we have something called Winget, which is the package manager by Windows. And what I did, and now I'm splitting myself a little bit from the talker, and I'll be the community member. I saw that Exascale didn't add Winget right now, so what I did is I created the manifest and I created a PR, so it's waiting. And in the future, what they will be able to do is install via Winget Exascale like that. It will, so it's local, so I create it locally. But what it will do is like it will get, not the latest, I saw that you have a more recent version, but is the one before last version, which is 174.2. And here we go. And normally I should have EXO available now. And I just did Winget install, right? Exascale. And if I do my compute instance, I can see that I have something running, which is actually my dev pod here that did well. And now I have Rust, not Go, sorry for that, but I have a Rust command line or environment where I can start running. And what it did behind the scenes very quickly, what devpod does, is that it creates a new compute instance and it provides it with all the containers applications, so it's Docker here in this case, so it installs Docker and it creates all the environment, download the sources potentially from the GitHub and put everything inside together. And now here, if I do a cargo run, it will, cargo run, okay, okay. Here we can see it, and if I change it very fast, here, and I redo, oops, and I should save it, of course, and I redo, and here we go, okay? And I did not install anything. And once I'm done, I go back to devpod and I destroy my instance and it will destroy it from exascale, so don't forget that. It has a cost, okay? Okay. So we were at Winget. So now we are talking about Windows, right? And cloud native on the desktop. So really, I have many choices, actually. Locally, I can install everything that is listed here, and even more. Remotely, I can have devpod, any cloud CLI, AXO, AWS, Azure, name it. And also, through VS Code or the JetBrains, mainly that's mostly the most known here, editors, you can also connect remotely. But now let's talk a little bit about locally. Remember, I said I won't speak about a subsystem. Well, that's where I lie fully, because all these except for the last one rely on WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux. Okay, version 2. So what they will do, and we'll see it in a second, is like it will create a new distro for WSL, and then it will connect your Windows CLI, your Windows applications, right? Docker, nerdctl, Podman, name it, to the distro on WSL. So it will be kind of transparent for you. So you will run PowerShell, right? Not Bash, PowerShell. You will not enter any WSL here, no need for knowing Linux, but you will use PowerShell and you will type commands. And now you can relate to what I said before about GQ and EOF, right? Because now if I want to learn Docker, if I want to learn Kubernetes, kubectl commands, I will go to the Kubernetes sites, I will go to the Ciliums, to the ranchers of this world, Harbor, and I will try to, let's say, do that, to duplicate what I'm reading into my shell. But if the documentation is not about Windows, then you have WSL2, but the point here about the whole talk is really how we can maybe extend a little bit the harm from Linux to Windows in terms of, at least, of CLIs. Microcase multipass, love it, but microcase, actually, even though you can install it on WSL2, you will need multipass, which will create a VM. So more resources might be needed than WSL2, just that you know. Which brings me to the final demo. So here, I will be short. It's just like, okay, I work for SUSE, yes, but Rancher Desktop is fully open source. You can go there. Is let's say, the challenger in the containers ecosystem. The main one will be Docker Desktop, of course. But what we do best is Kubernetes. That's how you might know Rancher, is about our Kubernetes management suite. And right now, through Rancher Desktop, you can actually create containers. You can choose, which we were the first to do. And I'm not taking shots about Docker. I was Docker captain before, so I love Docker, by the way. But it's just like you can choose container engines. You can go for containerd and use nerdctl. So let's go back here. And let me, can I zoom a little bit and maybe cd home. And if I do nerdctl ps, should be empty, exactly, that's okay. But I can use nerdctl, I can swap my container runtime and use Docker. Behind the scenes, what we do, that's most important, is like we have Kubernetes running. So here is kubectl cluster info. And we have, let's say by default, by default, we are running K3s behind the scenes. You can choose your version, so you can adapt your version to be like the prod or not the prod. And anyway, and we can install Cilium for sure. I've done that, so I blogged about that even, so that's okay. Arbor, I'm not sure. I will learn about it today, so that's my next challenge actually, to put Arbor on Rancher Desktop. But anyway, so here you can have the tooling, and what it does is like it connects to WSL, like I said, it has some networking, some other integrations, and last but not least, I invite you to download it afterwards, of course. We will have the dashboards, and the dashboard is built in, and what it is a Rancher Manager Lite Community Edition, okay? So you will be able to see everything that your Kubernetes cluster is running. So I didn't install anything, so anyway, but sorry. Let's go back here. I go back here, you can see the nodes. Actually, this is the name of my WSL distro. I don't want to enter too much into WSL, but anyway, here you can see what are the consumptions and everything. And just take a look about Rancher Manager, and if you really like it, again, it's one of the, if not the #1 suite for managing Kubernetes clusters, multi-cluster also, and we have a new suite. I think it has been announced for Rancher Prime. So if you have any questions, I'm not here, I'm a tech writer, but maybe my colleague will be able to help you, which is here. All right. So, next episode, and I'm done. How can you help? And by you, I'm putting myself in it, right? I'm talking about this, but I'm always thinking, how can I help further the Windows community or the Windows users that want to do some cloud native? Community, so out of the community here. Well, I said the story already, but sometimes one person here presents me with some friends of him and says like, oh, but if you have any questions on Windows, ask him. Oh no, thank you, I hate Windows, and they walk away. Literally happened twice. True story. So make them feel welcome, like, okay, don't judge, because that's how Linux felt when Windows was running everything, and they felt like bad because, oh, you want to game and you have Linux? Ha, what's that? No, try to help, okay? So here is more like, okay, you want cloud native? Here is maybe some help that I can provide, but don't judge them too hard. Then if you have some colleague that knows some PowerShell, ask him for help or ask her for help, right? Because we are lacking documentation on PowerShell CLIs. Again, remember, I'm not talking about servers, I'm talking about user experience. Extra points for packaging. I guess I won my Exascale hoodie today. I'm not just looking. It's okay. Enterprise. So now corporate ads. I've been there. I have some customers on SUSE actually that wanted to use Rancher Desktop, but then they need WSL2, they need to understand what is WSL2 and so on. So from a company perspective, understand first off what's the need. Do you need to compute locally, like Docker Desktop, Rancher Desktop, Podman Desktop, or are you okay if it's remote and then DevPod, some CLI, and that's it, okay? Understand your need. Then are the tooling that you might use as a CLI trustworthy? Winget, what I did, and you saw now, is a great place. Trust that it comes from the source. You can see that on the manifest, who created it. I created something for Exascale. I'm not Exascale at all. So I'm a community provider. I'm not an official provider, right? They will become afterwards. But right now, be careful. So be careful when you do some Winget install or something like that. Ensure that the source is trustworthy. And again, align Uper. So you can tell that I didn't finish my slides, but like align your expectations. What do you want to see, especially from the command line's perspective, is like, do you need some logging? Do you need some output or everything? Is it PowerShell enough, or you need to go for some bash because there's more logs there and stuff like that, okay? Here are just very few projects actually that are running on Windows natively, no WSL2 around it. eBPF is coming for Windows, step by step, but it's coming. K3S is having a Windows node built soon, and K0S from Mirantis also. That's it. On time.